Morning folks, and welcome back. I get asked a lot about where I keep all of my gear, my camping gear, and how I store it to make sure it's in good condition the next time I come to use it. So I thought I would bring you into my kit room and give you a bit of a guided tour. Now I'm lucky to have this building to keep my kit in. This is basically a shed in my garden that's been insulated. Half of it is my workshop and the other half is my kit storage room. But I appreciate not everybody has this amount of space to keep their gear in. I am lucky in that respect, but hopefully some of these ideas will transfer across. So wherever you keep your kit, be it under the bed, you know, in the cupboard under the stairs, in your garage, wherever, you know, hopefully you'll be able to get some ideas for how to store your kit. Before I get started showing you where I store my kit, I want to show you probably the most important thing in this room. And if you're going to take away one thing from this video, my sort of top tip, that is to make sure your kit is well aired and dried before you store it. I've run 2 lengths of paracord down the length of this room, and they are my drying lines. Whenever I get back from a trip or an overnight camp, the first thing I do is unpack and hang everything up to air. So my tent or my bivvy or hammock or tarp or whatever it is I've been using, my sleeping bag, any waterproof clothing, bags, anything like that that has got damp or might have got damp, I hang up, and I'll leave it up for several days. With my sleeping bag, I'll hang it up one way, then I'll turn it inside out, hang it up the other way, make sure everything is really aired, really dry before packing it away. I know not everybody has the space I do for drying gear. You know, I'm very lucky this room is heated. I can dry stuff easily in here. But, you know, whatever you have, make sure you dry your gear. I try and keep all my gear organised in trunks and boxes and barrels. And I've built units out of MDF just to store those boxes on. It makes it a lot easier when I'm looking for something. I can just drag that box out, open up the lid, get whatever it is that I'm looking for out and slide the box back. I haven't got to, you know, take boxes off boxes because they're stacked on other boxes and all that sort of thing. You know, every box has its own sort of slot. It's just easy for me when I'm looking for something. I tend to keep a lot of my gear in boxes like this because I have historically had a mouse problem in this building, and I've had several bits of kit ruined by mice chewing through them. So I now try and keep everything that's likely to get chewed in a box or in a barrel that the mice can't get into, and it's just peace of mind for me. These cases I bought years ago from an army surplus store, and they're military flight cases for transporting equipment. They're great cases, they're tough, they've got reinforcing on all the corners and stuff, and the mice cannot get into it, they can't gnaw into it, which is why I use them. They're also a good size. So this one has my blankets in. I've got 3 blankets that I keep in here. Maggie's blanket and one of my sleeping bags. That's my 2-season sleeping bag there, which I keep loose. I'll talk more about sleeping bags in just a second. This one has all of my hammock insulation in. So I've got my underquilts here I use when I'm camping in my hammock, and my top quilts, and they're just all stored in there, loose, uncompressed. And this one has more sleeping bags in. Now, it's a good idea when you are storing a sleeping bag to store it uncompressed like this. Often when you buy a sleeping bag, it will come with 2 bags. It'll come with a small bag which you can compress the sleeping bag into for when you're actually packing it into your rucksack, and it'll come with a big net bag like this. And the idea is that for long-term storage, this is how you store it. It keeps the loft in the sleeping bag. If you store it compressed, that loft over time can compress down and it becomes less effective. It'll be less warm. So store it loose like this. If you haven't got a crate or a box or a trunk or whatever to store it in, just keep it in the bag like that under your bed. That'll be absolutely fine. But don't store it long term in its compressed state. So I've got 2 sleeping bags in here. These are more my sort of warmer winter bags. And again, they just sort of stuff in there like that. This trunk has got various other bits of camping gear that's sleep related. So pillows are in here, my sleeping pads and things are all in here. My sleeping mattresses. I've got my chair kits for turning those sleeping mattresses into chairs. Anything like that that is kind of, you know, sleeping related, ground sheets, all that sort of thing. They all live in there, where the mice can't get them. On the end here is my swag. The only reason I store that there is because it's big and I haven't got a box big enough to put it in. And on top of that unit, I'm just keeping my bike for the time being. Over on this end, in the space behind where my workshop door opens, I keep all of my sort of oversized tall items. So I've got canoe paddles, I've got walking poles, rolls of fabric from various projects, my sail for the canoe, all that sort of stuff. They just store there, they're out of the way. I can still open my workshop door, and that works well. Over on this side of the room, I've got tents. So I've got my big canvas tents here. It's my baker tent. Behind that is my Polish Slavu, the modified one, and then a load of other tents that I use here and some down below. I haven't got anything to store these tents in as yet. I probably will get some boxes at some point. For now, they're just stored as they are. It's definitely a good idea to make sure you haven't got any crumbs of food left in your tent when you get back from a trip. Just shake it out outside, make sure there's no crumbs or bits of food in there, nothing in the pockets, because the mice will know. They'll sniff those little morsels out and they'll just gnaw their way into your tent to find them. So just make sure that you spend a bit of time getting rid of any crumbs and things from inside, and then you should be okay storing them like this. Obviously, if you're storing them in your house, it's not an issue. I'm out here in a shed, so I've got to take precautions. Yeah, I've got other tents and things down here, a couple of sleeping bags which I haven't got any other storage for, and then I've got some canoe barrels here. Canoe barrels are superb for storing kit in or storing food in. These are inexpensive to buy. They're used for importing chutneys and pickles and foodstuffs, and you can pick them up on eBay for not a lot of money. And they have this metal band here which makes a good seal. It forces the lid down onto the barrel and makes a good seal, which is why I use them on canoe trips. But here in my kit storage, I use them for storing food. So in here I have various dehydrated meals. I'm not like a prepper. I'm not storing food or saving up food for the apocalypse or anything like that. It's just literally food I use on trips. This box here is a real mixture. There's a lot of kind of camp cooking gear in here and various camping bits and pieces. It's all just random stuff that I just want to keep together, basically. Just makes it easier when I've got to look for something rather than having them all scattered about. So my table, I've got my reflector oven, grills, I've got food bags in here, I've got a sit pad, I've got work gloves, I've got all that kind of stuff. My fire kit and stuff like that is in there, first aid kit, all that sort of stuff just lives in there, just so it's all together. And then this box here is much the same, except that stuff that doesn't get used so often. Between the two here, I've got my saws, my axe, and a few other bits that are too long to fit in the boxes. And then down below here, I've got 2 more food barrels. In this black barrel is all of my canoe gear. So I just have various straps and lines, my flotation bags for the canoe, the bracket for my lee board. All of that sort of stuff lives in there, all in one place. And then my buoyancy aid just lives on the top. On the shelves along this side of the room, I've got all of my pots and pans, kettles, cups, stoves, lamps, water bottles, water filters, all that sort of stuff that doesn't need to be stored in a box or anything. I put them on the shelves just so that I can see what I'm looking for easily. And then on the worktop below those shelves, I have all of my bigger pots, cast iron generally, my pressure cookers, all that sort of thing. Most pots and pans and cups made from stainless steel or titanium or aluminium don't really require any special care. Just wash them up, dry them, and store them away however you want to store them. Cast iron is slightly different. It's worth just taking a bit more care before you put these pots away to store. I'm going to cover seasoning and caring for cast iron in more detail in another video, but it's really important before you put your cast iron pots and pans away that they are clean, dry and oiled. While it's still hot, you can just wipe around with some oil on a bit of kitchen paper, coat all the surfaces, and it will help to stop them rusting. It's also worth keeping some rice in your Dutch oven or your cast iron pot, just dry, uncooked rice, or a paper towel, paper napkin, or both. Just keep them in there if you're going to be storing it. That just absorbs any moisture that might be in there and helps to prevent rusting. If you haven't got one of these pots with a little V notch on it like this one, which lines up with a notch on the pot itself and just allows a little bit of airflow. If you haven't got one of those, you can just use a bit of cardboard, just wedge it between the lid and the pot itself, and it just keeps the lid off slightly. It just allows any moisture that might be in there to get out and just creates a little bit of airflow. These three trunks have got my tarps, my bivvy bags. So I've got hooped bivvies in there and normal bivvy bags. And in the end here I've got hammocks and all of the various hammock related bits and pieces. It's nice just to be able to keep them separate like that, keep them organised. The trunks are labelled, so I can just pull out the trunk I need and find whatever it is I'm looking for easily and quickly. They're quite expensive, but they're really well made. They're really durable. I often use these if I'm car camping, just to keep gear in. I can use it as a seat, I can use it as a table, and they stack, and they're good things. And obviously they protect whatever is inside from the atmosphere. If it's damp, you know, you can leave them outside, and you haven't got to worry about the rain getting in. And they also obviously protect the contents from rodents as well. I've got another one of those Plano trunks here. With biking related stuff in, so all my kind of bike packing bags and anything related to cycling is in there. And then this bag here has just got bags in. It's a bag of bags. Rucksacks, bags and dry bags are on this shelf here. Again, just like with the tents, I need to be careful to make sure I don't leave any food in these bags. I did have a rucksack ruined a year or so ago because I left one of them little Mao-Am chewy sweets in a side pocket on a rucksack, and a mouse chewed right the way through the rucksack. In fact, it chewed through one side of the rucksack right the way through it to get to the pocket on the other side, so it destroyed the rucksack completely. But that's where all they live. And I've got bigger stuff in this end slot here, stuff that doesn't really fit anywhere else. So my kneeling pad for the canoe, I've got a pop-up tent of Tom's, I've got the solar panels for my solar generator, bits and pieces like that that don't really fit anywhere else. Over at this end of the room by the window is my sewing machine, where I've got some natural light, and then next to that I've got storage for fabric and other materials I use for making gear. Above that I've got storage for all of those odds and ends, those knickknacks, bits and bobs that don't otherwise have a home. I also keep my knives in this area here. I've got a sharpening system, and I've got all of my carving knives, carving tools, and my belt knives and saws and all that sort of stuff. They all live over in this area here. And I think that is just about all of it. I know I'm lucky to have this room. I appreciate not everybody's got a whole room they can dedicate to storing their gear in, but however you store your gear at home, hopefully you'll be able to take away some tips from this video that'll help. I think the three most important things though are to make sure you dry your kits when you get back from a camping trip. Hang it up, make sure it is bone dry before you pack it away. Sleeping bags, store them uncompressed, loosely in a bag, even a bin bag, something like that, under your bed, but not compressed. And if you use cast iron, make sure you wash it, dry it, and oil it before you store it away. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you soon.